I'm I'm the new general manager of SolarShare and welcome everybody to our 2026 annual general meeting. I'd like to start us off with a land acknowledgement. Our office is located in Toronto, covered by Treaty 13 and the Williams Treaties, on Spadina Avenue, which has its roots in the Ojibwe word Ishpadina, which means hill or sudden rise in the land. The ancestral, traditional, and contemporary caretakers of these lands are the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and is now home to and stewarded by many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also own and operate solar projects on lands with many other caretakers covered by many other treaties throughout Ontario, as well as territories where treaty relationships remain unresolved. So some notes about participating in our AGM. I hope that you've all been able to sort of receive the pre-AGM documents through our website. You should be able to see our audited financials and last meeting's minutes on there. If you move your cursor, you should be able to see the Zoom toolbar. If you have any questions, please type it into the Q&A function. We'll also have a section at the end for Q&A where you can raise your hand, ask your questions verbally, and we can respond then. We will also vote using the Zoom polling function for any of our motions, and to vote for our board of directors, we'll use Slido, which is integrated. Okay, I'd like to start by thanking all of the board of directors. Everybody's on this call today. Thank you so much. Mike, Grazan, Poppy, Ron, Patrick, Doug, Peter, and Shama. I felt so welcomed and supported since taking on this role, and I am so grateful to report to such an, informed, passionate, competent group of humans. I'd like to particularly thank Shama and Glenn, both of whom will not be rejoining us. You are leaving the board, but you will always be part of our legacy. So thank you so much for your dedication and contribution. We would not be here without the both of you, and I wish you both the best in all your future endeavors. Big thank you to all of our committee members as well. You are fantastic. Many of you are new. Some of you are running for a board seat today. Thank you all for your time and your contributions. And if anybody else on this call is interested in getting involved, please reach out. You're welcome to join our committees with the relevant expertise. Big thank you to the staff. Bob, as always, you have been sort of a staple in this organization, and you've worked so hard to ensure that all of our solar projects work as they should. A big welcome and thank you to Kyle and Arshia. Many of you on this call, many of you as members will have interacted with them in the past number of months and will continue to do so if you have questions. And a big thank you to all of our operations and maintenance technicians and to our friends at Tapestry and Trek for all the help, all the things that you do to help us. Here is a brief overview of our agenda today. Please bear with us. We are going to try to get through all of the reports in the first hour before the elections so that you can all make sort of an informed vote for these board candidates based on what you think SolarShare needs moving forward. We also encourage you to ask questions during the Q&A and to give us feedback based on what you think we need. We will also try to answer questions during each section, but again, we'll have that Q&A period afterwards. So let's do the call to order. Can I get confirmation again on the Teams chat that we have the 25 members required for quorum? Perfect. I will be the presiding officer today. This meeting is being recorded. You should have all gotten a notification on Zoom, but we'll also, Poppy, the secretary of the board, will be recording minutes on paper. Can I get a motion to approve the 2025 AGM minutes? I'll ask Doug if you could move the motion. Come off mute.
I'll move that, Brian.
Thank you. And Grazan, do you mind seconding this motion? I'm not sure if Grazan is able to unmute, maybe I'll ask if Ron, you could come off mute and second the motion.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you, Ron. And so the poll, if we could, okay, looks like we ended the poll prematurely. Yes, can we? Yes, thank you. So the poll has been executed. If you could please vote, and please, again, it says this on the screen, but only vote if you were eligible, if you were present at the 2025 AGM. Okay, I'll give it another couple of seconds to get stragglers. Okay, let's end the poll. The motion carries. Okay, I'd like to welcome, oh, sorry, I'm just gonna exit out of this. I'd like to welcome Mike Burgum, President of the Board, to come and deliver the President's report. Please stop spotlighting myself and spotlight Mike, and then Mike, let me know when you want me to move the slides. In case we are experiencing any technical difficulties, I think Arshia, who's doing the Zoom, might be sending a notification to you. Mike, if you can hear us, if you could accept the invite to come on as a, okay, yes, perfect. If you could accept the invite to come on as a panelist, then you'll be able to unmute and share your video and deliver the report.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes, there's a bit of an echo though. Um,
Okay.
if you could turn off the audio on your computer, or use headphones, that might help, or like an external mic.
I think there are two mics in the Zoom. One of them might need to be removed.
Um,
He's also not a
Can you
panelist.
hear me
He's an
now?
attendee.
Mike, Rashia says she
yeah,
unmuted you. Can you try speaking?
Dear.
Yeah, we can hear you, Mike.
Brian, can you hear me now?
yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead, please.
Oh dear. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear us, Mike?
Oh, geez.
Mike, we can hear you.
There, Brian, how's that?
Mike, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Sorry, that's all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Sorry for that snafu, everyone. Thank you to everyone who's joining the meeting tonight. We appreciate your time as well as your investments and your interest. In terms of review of 2025, we took on 48 new members. We paid out 1.5 million interest to our investors. I'm going to cover shortly a major update, major upgrade on our Waterview project, which I told everyone about last year. It was not one of our best generation years. I'll explain that. And as Brian touched on, he is the new general manager, and congratulations officially, Brian, on that. And Chris Caners was our previous general manager from 2018. And if I don't know if Chris is on the call, but I'd like to thank him for his years of service and his dedication. Okay, slide. In terms of 2026, we have about four major focuses. One of them, due to the underperformance this year, was to do three major system upgrades. They're going to be nothing like our Waterview project, and I'll tell you more about them in a future slide. But we have had much lower than expected revenues, and we're making changes to achieve the levels we wanted. We're also seeking innovative ways of minimizing future maintenance costs. We've learned a lot lately through some experts we're now dealing with, and we're hoping that we can use a lower level of expenditures for maintenance in future, despite the projects getting older. Um, we're also beginning to plan for the continued operation of our projects post-FIT after the feed-in tariff contracts, the first of which expires in 2031. The independent electricity system operator has been having meetings of which we've been a part. They've been soliciting opinions, and is good optimism for us to be able to continue generation at newer, lower remuneration figures post-FIT. We're also going to be seeking new project opportunities. There are several of us working on that, and Patrick Colley is going to do a presentation on that later this evening. Slide. In terms of the generation, in 2021 and 2022, as you can see, we were generating 17.8 gigawatt hours. And a gigawatt hour, I sound like Elon Musk when I'm saying that, 1 gigawatt hour is a million kilowatt hours. It's a lot of power. We've hit some decline figures in 2023 when we started running into inverter problems. Inverters are the devices which convert the direct current from panels into alternating current and make it suitable for putting on the grid. We did some repairs and some workarounds last year, for 2 years actually, and we have finally decided that we are missing a lot of generation. In 2025, it really bit us in the behind. Just 6 projects cost us a loss of 0.76, 3/4 of a gigawatt hour. Without those losses, we would have been up in between 17 and 18 gigawatt hours for the year, which would have been respectable given the weather and forest fire smoke. Slide. The Waterview rebuild I told you a little bit about last year. Waterview is a Mississauga project. It was our first rooftop project we did in 2011. It was with a different type of technology than is used today. And we were told with about 1 month's notice that the landlord wanted our stuff off the roof in entirety because they needed to re-roof the building. The panels you see in front of you in the picture are about 1 foot wide and 12 feet long. There were 3,040 of them, and we had to get them off the roof, including racking, wiring, and everything else. It was quite the undertaking, and we did not appreciate having to do it in the middle of the summer. Our newer leases would not allow that, but this was our first lease, and we or I was learning, as we go. So we decided when it came to putting the system back, rather than putting back the numerous old low efficiency panels, we should consider doing a system upgrade. So we proceeded on it, and it turned out the numbers made it worthwhile. Slide. The design we came up with, here's a satellite view of Waterview, and you can see that sort of the lines indicating the gray panels, covering most of the roof. It is, by the way, close to 2.5 acres of solar panels that were there. With the new, more modern, more efficient panels, we realized that we could put on a much smaller system that would put out much more power. And it looked like the dollars and cents worked out. It was going to be a very beneficial change for the remainder of the FIT contract, which is only 6 years away, 5 years away now. Slide. The new system was finally completed this spring. We were off the roof for 1 entire year. It was painful. In changing the system, we had to go through, all sorts of engineering studies and building permits and a number of things that caused very painful delays. Luckily, it's over right now, and the system is generating, and in fact, it's doing quite well. Slide. In the middle of a day, we would normally, with the other project, expect to reach the peak power and sit on it for about 3 hours. This is a graph showing the Waterview project back on June 8th, where we had a cloudless, clear day. We reached peak power by 10 a.m. and we were chugging away at full steam at 6 p.m. So you can see that that is uh, quite a change in the output. So this system is really producing, and we're seeing that it's doing what we had hoped and what we designed it for. We aren't able to make this type of changes, the increase in size of the system, on anything other than this rooftop project because of the generation of contract that it had. Slide. One other project we had spent quite a bit of money on last year was our Renfrew project, which involves trackers. It's a ground-based project, obviously, and we soon came to learn that if the movement mechanism for the tractors, we call them azimuth and zenith drives, if they break, particularly the azimuth drives, they are very expensive. An azimuth drive, including labor and everything, is about $20,000. We found an operating system created by a man in Ontario here that was much gentler on the operating system, made the trackers much more responsive. It made us gave us the ability to command them and monitor them long distance, from Toronto or Kitchener, where Bob is, and we expect not only are we getting much better performance from these and a much lower rate of breakdowns, but we hope it's going to really reduce our rate of breakdowns in the future because the new operating system is much gentler on them through the operation, and they've got a lot of years to go yet. Slide. I mentioned this year that we had three problem projects that we were going to deal with, and we were dealing with them like literally right now. Bob and I were having a conversation about it this morning. Three projects all in Brampton, the rooftop projects, Basaltic, Keel, and Holtby, two 250s and one 500 kilowatt. And again, they're inverter problems. And we have tried and tried and tried to remediate. We've been trying to resist buying new ones. And we finally realized, no, we have no alternatives. We have to do it. Luckily, we're doing new ones that are going to involve a minimum amount of rewiring and a pretty fast ease of installation. So we're pushing that through. The board has approved the expenditure, and we're getting three of all three will have the same very dependable brand of inverters that we've used before. Slide. I want to issue a special thank you to two friends of the organization, two longtime friends. The first is David Robertson. Dave is one of my fellow co-founders. It was Brian Eiler, Dave, and I that co-founded SolarShare. And Dave threw his heart and soul into it for many years. He actually served three board terms, retiring from the board only in 2017, but working ever since then on the finance committee. And Dave has made invaluable contributions, and we've been through a lot of laughs and condolences together. And I count Dave as a close friend. He has been just a super ally. Along the similar veins has been Thomas Albenreiser. Thomas was an early joiner of SolarShare. He became a director in 2011. He served two terms, but he also remained on the finance committee. And like Dave, Thomas brought a lot to the table. He's a former bank vice president and offered a great deal of knowledge and guidance in our many meetings where we discussed, what the bond rates would be and the rate of uptake and future cash flows and so on. So to you both, I hope you're on the call. We owe you our eternal thanks, and we really appreciate you being a part of it. Hope you won't be a stranger. That's it for me, Brian.
Thank you, Mike. I'll welcome Chris, if Chris could be spotlighted, um, joining us from Tapestry Community Capital to give us a bit of an update on the platform.
Thanks, Brian. Folks, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Chris Mohan, and I'm the product manager at Tapestry Community Capital. For those unfamiliar, Tapestry is the investment processing and administrator for SolarShare. So we work with the bond issuance, maintenance, and interest payout process. Um, as product manager, I oversee our infrastructure and our digital technology tools we use at Tapestry, and that includes our bond management system. You may or may not be familiar with a recent system migration we did this past spring. And that has been the culmination of years of scoping, software development, and eventually migration. So this is a huge step forward for SolarShare and Tapestry and our long partnership together. To give you a sense of how much data we've moved over, it was over for SolarShare over 300,000 transactions, over 2,500 members and investors, and over 6,000 community bonds. So very impressive. Um, there, of course, as we've launched, been some snags and issues along the way. And so we're so appreciative of the SolarShare team and all the SolarShare members for being patient with us. This new platform is about continuous improvement. And so we're always looking for feedback and want to spot those issues as soon as we're aware of them. You'll see on the screen a screenshot of the landing page for the new portal. You can reach it at invest.tapestrycapital.ca. One of the most common support questions we get is how do I log in to the new portal? And it's critical that if you're logging in for the first time, you click forgot password. So in our system migration, it's best practice to absolutely not try and migrate over passwords. That's very sensitive information. And so you need only click forgot password, enter in your email, and you'll be emailed a new link to set a new password and log in. And once you log in, you'll be able to see all of your investments, bond certificates, historical transaction data, as well now other offerings that you have subscribed to with other community bond issuers in the Tapestry ecosystem. If you're ever experiencing any technical issues or spot any bugs, we want to hear from you. So you can email tech@tapestrycapital.ca. I'll be the one monitoring that inbox, so I'm more than happy to support you with anything that comes your way. And as well, more than happy to hear feedback and feature requests of what you'd like to see the platform do. And if you have specific investment related queries about your investments or investment processing, you can reach out to our services team at services@tapestrycapital.ca. That's all I have for folks, but I trust that these two emails will be sent out post AGM so folks know how to reach us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Chris. I welcome Ron to deliver the treasurer's report if Ron could be spotlighted.
Hey, everyone. Can you go to the first slide, Brian? Thanks. I'm going to be walking through the financial statements that we get audited every year. And I'll just highlight a few things. This was in the package before, so hopefully some of you had a chance to look at it. On the balance sheet on the asset side, we had a little less cash at the end of the year, and I'll talk about that in a second. The big change here is the projects, land, and equipment line. You can see it went down from about 35 million to 31.5 million. And that's really just a result of us amortizing the projects that we own. So that's a natural thing that'll happen over the life of those assets, and eventually that line will be fully amortized and become zero when those projects reach end of life. Next slide, Brian. On the liabilities. So again, the big line item here, there's a current portion and a long-term portion of community solar bonds. So that's the bonds that you all have invested in. The current portion is really just the amount that comes due for maturity within the next 12 months. So that number will fluctuate based on whether it was 3 or 5 years ago when we sold those bonds. So you can see the current portion this year was down to 11 million. Again, that's really just a fluctuation of when we sold bonds and when they're maturing. The other big fluctuation here, you'll see just below that is operating loans, 2.5 million. And the reason for that was we had some delays in receiving our offering statement last year. We submitted in the summer. We didn't get receipted till right at the end of the year. And without having an offering statement in market, we're not able to sell bonds. And in those circumstances, we've got various generous partners, Mike Brigham being one, Glenn Estel being another, where we've got loan arrangements with them that we can borrow on a short-term basis to meet our cash flow needs. And so because we were without that offering statement for a lot of the back half of last year, we ended up relying on them and had to borrow up to 2.6 million by the end of the year. Now that the offering statement has been issued and we've been selling bonds, and I think Peter's going to talk about that a bit later, very successful. And so those operational loans have and will be paid off very shortly. So again, it's just a timing thing, but we thank those partners for that. And then next slide. So on the income statement, I won't go into too much detail. Mike's already talked about that we did not have one of our best generation years. So you can see the top line revenues were down about 400,000, 350,000. So not great. The other thing that Mike touched on, and I'll point out, is in the expenses, there's a line called loss on disposal of Waterview project, 700,000. So from an accounting perspective, when we took all of those old panels off the roof, we basically disposed of those, bought new panels, and put on effectively a brand new project on there. And so from an accounting perspective, you basically write off the unamortized balance of that first project and then capitalize the new project. And so that's why it shows up as a kind of a one-time loss on disposal. Mike mentioned we did the cost analysis of doing that, a full replacement, and because of that increased production that we're getting, it made economic sense even with that short period of life left on the contract to do that. So that's again a one-time thing. And then if you look at our bottom line for expenses, 7.9, if you take that 700,000 out, we're at about 7.2. And we do see that, we're down from 7.5, and that number will continue to decrease. One, because the amortization will decrease, but also, as Mike mentioned, we're getting more efficient. We're, tightening up in a number of areas. So those costs will go down. Hopefully our revenues will bounce back up and we'll see a better net income in future years. So that's it. Next slide. So we've had Crines LaRose as our auditor for many years now. The board is recommending that we reappoint Crines LaRose again for next year. So can I ask for a motion to reappoint them as auditors for the 2026 fiscal year at a remuneration that will be determined by the board of directors?
I see that Mike has raised his hand, so I'll say Mike has moved the motion. Patrick, I'll ask if you could second.
That would involve me coming off mute very quickly. I second.
Thank you, Patrick. And then, Arshia, do you mind launching the poll? And if everybody could vote, please, if you approve. I'll give it a sec. Okay, the number's looking pretty static. I'm going to give it a sec. Let's close the poll. And the motion moves. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Ron, for your presentation. I'm going to move us to Doug to deliver the finance report. If I could get a spotlight on Doug, please.
Hi, everybody. I want to start just by echoing Mike's thanks to Dave Robertson and Thomas Halbenreiser and to some extent to Ron Seftel as well, although we're still here. We're looking at an operation that's been ongoing now for 10 years, and it's hard to remember that when people like Mike and Dave and Thomas were getting all of this stuff going, the number of assumptions they had to make, the number of things they didn't know and just had to try to figure out as they went along. And now here we are with a system that's working pretty well, notwithstanding that we had a bump in 2025 that Mike's talked about. It just I think it's just worth remembering that they made a lot of decisions that we benefit from today. Dave and Thomas stepped away from the finance committee. We have four new members, Devendra, Peter, Derek, and Yong, who've joined Mark Penny, who joined last year. And these folks have got some really impressive and relevant financial backgrounds that if we're able to move on some of the new projects that we hope to be able to get into, and Patrick's going to talk a bit about those, these new backgrounds that we've got on the finance committee are going to be really helpful. Next slide, please. So Mike talked about the dip we had in 2025. We think we've got that nailed. Now, Waterview was responsible for half the shortfall, just the fact that it was offline. So Waterview being up and running very powerfully now, in addition to getting Basaltic Keel and Holtby improved with the inverters, is why we're calling for that uptick in production revenue in 2026. And it's all in keeping with the long-term model that says, okay, we generate these production revenues, and then we get this virtual cycle where we're able to pay off bonds and reduce our interest expense. Our interest expense normally would have dipped in 2026, but we did have to finance the new Waterview project. We did a business case on it. As Mike pointed out, it's worth doing for the remaining life of Waterview. But that's why you see that the interest expense in 2026 didn't dip where it normally would have. But that'll resume again in 2027. Operating expenses also upticked a little bit in 2026, or are upticking. I think they're going to remain at that level in 2027, and then they'll start to decline after that. And all of this is in keeping with our goal of paying off bondholders and just leveraging the cash flow from the projects. Next slide, please. So you can see that our overall debt, the top line there, continues to decline. Ron made mention a moment ago of the operating loans we took out in 2025. You see those at the bottom. They are either now, they're almost paid off now or will be shortly by bonds. So that's why the orange bonds line takes a bit of an uptick this year. And I just don't want to sort of steal Peter's thunder, but there was some really innovative decision making that was made in terms of how to raise bonds quickly, raise funds through bonds quickly in order to pay off those operating lines with lower cost bonds. And that's a credit to Brian and to Kyle. My last slide, please. So as I said, our overall model is working, notwithstanding that we had a bit of a blip last year. We've put this new investment into Waterview and learned that by putting in more efficient panels and the power that Mike talked about, how we generate, 5 or 6 hours of peak production in a day instead of just 1 or 2. This is really important learning for us as we look at what some of the new projects may be that we can get into. Same thing with the new financing methods that Brian and Kyle tried out this year. These are all going to really help us as we move forward, hopefully, given some new allowances made by the provincial government and enable us to look at some new projects. That's it for me.
Thank you, Doug. Let's move on to Patrick's business report. If we could spotlight Patrick, please. Thank you, Doug.
All right. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's showing the cover page. I don't like looking at myself for that long. So last year I got really excited to talk about the state of the market because for the first time in my 12 years now in the industry, people outside of the industry were talking about electricity markets. And this year is more the same. The data center build out, electrification of heat and EVs, maybe not so much anymore, but more data center load growth continues to be the story. And so everyone in every market is scrambling to meet growing demand for the first time in a while. The forecast on the screen is from the IESO, and it shows a gap between supply and demand starting at about 2032. But don't panic, that's a bit misleading. A couple of the so elegantly colored blue bars that are hard to discern. The top one is gas. The ISO shows gas retiring to meet the clean energy regulation. But as we've seen in other jurisdictions, when push comes to shove, if you have to retire gas and turn the lights off, you're probably not going to retire that gas. Also, the ISO is a little bit disingenuous here on solar and wind. As we'll talk about later, they seem to show solar and wind, which is the slightly lighter blue bar, disappearing over time. We at SolarShare and across the industry know that that's not the case. Those solar and wind projects that are out there connected to the grid aren't just going to disappear. So although demand is rising, I'm confident that recontracting those solar and wind projects and building new solar and wind and battery projects will close that supply gap. So if we go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about how the IESO is doing that. We just closed, I don't work for the ISO. The ISO just closed LT2, which added about 1,100 megawatts of solar and wind at a price of only 8.8 cents a kilowatt hour. For comparison, I think our FIT contracts range from 30 to 70 cents a kilowatt hour. So prices have come down materially. And good news for all the environmentalists here, the latest round of ISO procurements also favored exclusively batteries for capacity and no gas plants were awarded. That's the larger stuff. LT2 is going to procure mostly larger stuff. Larger FIT contracts are probably going to recontract through MT2. And then where smaller FIT contracts like the one SolarShare owns come in, are going to fall into what the ISO is calling the local generation program. So we're really excited about this, and I'll go into a little bit more detail later. That's the avenue to recontract with the ISO for us. On the other hand, Mike and some of us on the new business committee are also exploring other ways to get new solar on the grid. So contracting with someone outside the ISO or bilaterally has never really been much of a thing in Ontario, but it may become more attractive soon. And so a couple of ways that could work for us is through signing contracts with our existing landlords at rooftop projects, because a behind the meter deal where we spin their meter backwards might look more attractive than competing with some bigger projects in the local generation program. And then alternatively, for our ground mounts or for new development projects, we could look at virtual net metering with co-ops or other small to medium size electricity consumers. Can we go to the next slide? On the local generation program, this is my main focus, but unfortunately we are still waiting for the ISO and the government to issue a directive to actually move this program along. We thought it would launch in 2006. We thought it would launch in 2026, but We hear now that it'll launch next year in 2027. And if we go to the next slide, because I won't bore you with contract details, good news for us. Like Mike said, our first FIT contract, Waterview, doesn't expire until 2031. So we still have a few years to figure this out and to wait for the government to launch the program. So this is our focus at the new business committee. We'd like to evaluate the next few contracts, starting with Waterview and Ontario Street, that are set to expire, and determine if we should be working with the landlord to either apply to the local generation program to recontract with the ISO, or come to terms with the landlord on some sort of behind the meter arrangement to sell the power directly to them. And our last resort is, of course, to take the panels off the roof, but we don't want to get to that point. I think that's all I had.
Yes. Thank you so much, Patrick. To wrap it up, we have Peter delivering the membership and campaigns report. If we could spotlight Peter, and thank you again, Patrick. I'm not sure if Peter is a panelist, but if
Can everyone hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, and you can see me? Hello?
I can't see you, sorry, but I think it's okay
What
if you
do I
want to.
need to do here? It says I cannot start video because it's disabled by the host.
We can see your slides though, Peter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I've got a relatively short presentation for you. I'm going to take you through some of the membership and solar bond highlights, tell you about some of the other organizations that we cooperate with, and then tell you about a upcoming social we have next week, in-person event. So this slide, there's really two pieces of data on this slide. One is the year-on-year bond sales. The other is the membership numbers. So if you look at the top line that sort of rises to the right, up and rising to the right, that's the membership count for SolarShare. This past year, we added 43 new members to the membership base. That brings us to a new total of 2,574. That's the number at the far right there. The other set of data that's on this slide is the bond sales year on year. So you'll notice 2026, we have an increase in the bond sales over the last couple of years. That's in part because of the bonds that matured, and that as bonds reach maturity, then we sell new bonds to replace them, but also because of the factors that Mike and Ron referred to, that we had the OS we had delays receiving the OS last year, so we took on some short-term loans for that, and then we had some costs related to Waterview and some of the other repowering. So far, we're in good shape under the current OS that just closed at the end of May. We raised $10.5 million, and our target for the year is $12.5 million. So we're in very good shape for that. Our OS for the next cycle has been submitted. So barring any delays like last year, we expect that to be receipted towards the end of the summer, possibly September. And then through the fall, we have a target to sell another $2 million or so of bonds. Next slide, please. So these are the key takeaways here. Last year in 2025, we raised $8.3 million in bonds. This year, we have a target of $12.5 million, against which we've raised $10.5 million. In total, we've paid out over $19 million in interest to our members. And the most recent interest payments went out last Friday. So you should see those now. Next slide. These are the logos of some of the organizations that we work with. Propel Impact, we hired a student from Propel last year to help us with some of the financial modeling. CECC, that is the Community Energy Cooperatives Canada. So we work with them to support grant applications and advocacy for community-owned solar projects. Tapestry, so you heard from them a little bit earlier this evening. So they're experts in managing and administrating community bonds. So they're very critical to our operation, handle a lot of the back office and the bond administration. Cooperators, we received a grant from them this past year, $15,000 grant, and that goes to covering some of the staff costs related to advocacy around virtual net metering. So that's one of the topics that Patrick touched on. If you don't know what virtual net metering is, it's essentially if you have a solar asset and you have somebody else to buy your power other than selling to the IESO, and they're not co-located, then you transmit that power over the local utility or the grid. And so you're virtually connected to your off-taker for the energy through the grid. So the use of this grant is to build the business case and to advocate for virtual net metering. And then TAF, we have a $50,000 grant from them to mobilize other organizations like SolarShare to advocate for community-owned energy projects. Next slide. So this AGM, those of you who've been with SolarShare for some time will remember that we used to have the AGM, an in-person AGM, and when the pandemic came, during lockdown, we started doing virtual AGMs. And then as the lockdown was lifted, we tried remote hybrid AGMs, and we had some administrative difficulty with that. And the benefit of the virtual AGM is that it expands the reach. So members that can't make it in person for the AGM can attend the AGM virtually like this. And then what we've decided to do is next week to have an in-person social for people to come and mix and mingle and have a couple of beverages and just socialize together. So this event is next Wednesday. It's right across the street from our offices at CSI on Spadina. We did send out a link in the last newsletter to register, but if you didn't see that, I think Kyle or somebody is going to post that in the chat. So the link will be in the chat. And if you register, we'd really appreciate that. It helps us with, just head count and planning for how many people we expect to receive. And, on behalf of the board and all the staff and everyone, we would really look forward to seeing everyone in person if you can make it.
Thank you so much, Peter. And it's election time, so thank you so much, everybody here, for listening to all of our updates. We have 3 director positions open, each for a term of 3 years. The nominees are listed on the left of the slide there. The way that it will work is that I will time the speeches. So I'll give some like visual gestures to say sort of 10 fingers will be 10 seconds left. T is that you're at time, and you can finish your sentence if you're mid-sentence, but I'll interrupt if anybody goes over by 10 seconds or more. When we vote, each person can vote for none, 1, 2, or 3 of the candidates. And the top three people who get the most votes will be confirmed to the board for these 3-year terms. We do allow for nominees to join like from the floor. So I'm going to start by opening the floor to say, are there any other nominees who would like to run for the board? And I'll give it maybe 20 seconds. You can raise your hand, allow you to unmute, and then you'll join this list to deliver the 60-second speech. Okay. And then I'm going to need a motion to conduct this process. So the full motion is to conduct a poll to elect 3 directors to the board of SolarShare from the nominees to hold office for the term of 3 years or until they leave office or successors appointed. Sorry, apologies. If you could cancel this poll for a second, I'm just going to need someone to move this motion first. Peter, you're just speaking. If you could come off mute again and move this motion.
Okay, I move it.
And then Doug, maybe if you could second.
It's Ron. I can second.
Thank you, Ron. I saw Doug raise his hand. But for the minutes, let's do Ron has seconded, and then now can we launch the poll to approve this motion? Okay, it looks stable. Let's end the poll, and the motion carries. We will go in the order as the nominees are listed out on the slide. All nominees, you should have gotten an invitation to be a panelist, and that way you'll be able to come off, or sorry, show your video and so we could see you while you're doing your 60-second speech. If that doesn't work, we can just allow you to unmute and you can deliver your speech verbally. So Yang, do you mind coming off mute and off video, on video, and whenever you're ready, I'll start the timer.
Sure. Thank you. Can you hear me or hear
Yes,
me?
we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks everyone. Good evening, everyone. And my name is Yong Yao, and I'm honored to be standing for election to the SolarShare board. I've spent more than 25 years in the senior finance and governance roles, including as a CFO, independent directors, and audit committee chair. Throughout my career, I have worked with the boards and the management team on financial oversight, risk management, capital planning, fundraising, and long-term organization sustainability. I would say what attracted me to SolarShare is its unique combination of a community ownership, clean energy, and member engagement. Over the past few months, I have had a chance to learn more about the organization through the finance committee, and I have been impressed by the commitment and the passion of all the members, staff, and directors. If elected, I will bring financial discipline, governance experience, and collaborative approach to help SolarShare remain resilient and successful for years to come. Thank you
Okay,
for your attention.
thank you so much, Yang. And now Devendra, will you come on video and off mute, please?
Yeah, just a quick mic check. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Brian. And hi, everyone. My name is Devendra Kalwani, and I'm asking for your vote tonight to join the board. I'm a CPA by trade and currently AVP Finance at Capstone Infrastructure, where I lead finance for several clean energy projects in Ontario and across Canada. What is unique is that I've also lived through some of the opportunities SolarShare faces today and in the years ahead. I've personally led the financing efforts of FIT contracted assets, as well as contributed to the successful recontracting and repowering of 3 FIT projects at my current company. We did it through the ISO MT2 program last year, and I'm confident I can add value to the board and the members in that respect. But the reason I'm here is simpler than that. Years ago, I specifically sought out the clean energy career, and today my expertise lies in clean energy, specifically industry scale solar. And through SolarShare, I hope to marry that expertise with my passion and bring solar to the community. And I'd be honored to have you both. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Devendra. Derek, I'll ask if you could come off mute and on video, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you, but there's a bit of an echo.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This is me. And try it again. I only have one speaker going.
So my suggestion, Derek, is if you turn off your speaker and then start when you're ready, I will just start the timer. Yeah.
Is that better? You can hear me now? Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. And I'm seeking your vote tonight to help the board in its human resource capacity as well. So I've been involved in human resources and operations for well over 25 years. I've helped my organizations in the past go through growth and transformation, workforce planning, governance, risk management. And my career has really been focused on aligning people strategies with business objectives. I remember when I first started talking with Brian, I said, you really need to understand the business in order to be successful in a human resource role with that organization. So I believe that I can bring a lot of strategic human capital oversight. I believe I can bring, some governance and risk management. I also think I can contribute in organizational effectiveness, some stakeholder-centered decision-making. Okay.
Thank you, Derek.
So didn't think it
Thank
was a
you,
minute.
thank you, Derek. Yeah, a minute goes by fast. But thank you, Derek. And then Connor, if I could ask you to unmute and come off. And apologies. So the T is the time's up, but I will give you the 10 seconds to finish your sentence before I jump in. So whenever you're ready, Connor.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Brian. You're doing a great job. Today, I work for Core Data Centers. I'm applying all my power expertise to help people get connected to the grid. It's a pretty in-demand area, but started out at the University of Calgary, where I got an MBA focused on energy. I then worked for a company called Montana Alberta Tie, which developed a really complex power line, and I learned all my electrical engineering skills as a business person. But then they died, got acquired by Enbridge. Worked in the renewable group there for many years. I was involved with not only development, but construction. Really got a lot of range in terms of really understanding the business. And then when Enbridge wasn't really as active on the growth side, I moved over to Algonquin, where I met Patrick Colley. And at Algonquin, I was involved with international business development and the growth at Algonquin. Over the years, I've been involved with development and construction operations. I've done a ton of M&A work, but I've been involved with wind, solar, but solar at the community, the rooftop, utility scale, hydro, geothermal storage, and then on both the electric T&D side, but also the water and gas side. So I understand how these markets work. Specifically, I've been involved with markets all over the world. So I'm very well versed. I learned to cut my teeth on the AESO, but then WEC, ISO, ERCOT, SVP, PJM, Spain, Chile.
Sorry to
I love working with
interrupt,
big teams.
Connor.
That's it.
But thank you for telling us about yourself. And if I could welcome Sonia to unmute and turn on your video, please.
Hey, Ron, can you hear me? All right.
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Sonia, and I believe cooperative ownership is one of the most important tools we have to make the energy transition fair, local, and democratic. And through my own nonprofit, Spark Source, I've been putting that belief into practice, helping farms access solar in a way that builds local capacities and keeps benefits close to the people creating them. That's ultimately why I'm so interested in SolarShare's work as well. And I bring 4 years of experience as sustainability researcher in policy and regulation and private sector kind of economics, environmental economics focused work, along with experience managing my own nonprofit and two others that I've been previously involved in, which is strengthening my skills in project delivery, budget management, and long-term strategic planning. So since January, I've served on SolarShare's new business development committee, and I want to bring that younger, policy-minded perspective to the board to help push the government and the ISO to develop the next generation of cooperative energy ownership in Ontario. We have to find that future for SolarShare, and I'm interested in developing that. Thanks.
Thank you, Sonia. Next is Peter. Do you mind coming off of mute and on video, please?
I cannot turn on my video for some reason.
Uh, let's try it for the speech. Arshia, do you mind sending Peter the notification again? Peter, if you could accept the panelist um, pop-up, that'll allow
Okay.
you to rejoin the meeting and turn on your video.
I do not see a pop-up. Oh, but I see myself now. Okay,
And then
everybody
if we
can
could
hear me and see
spotlight
me?
Peter,
Okay,
yeah, we can.
great. Well, thanks again, everyone. I've been involved with the SolarShare board since 2017. And in that time, I've contributed to the operations and maintenance, the finance committee and the marketing committee. I'm a professional engineer and an MBA with 30 years experience bringing advanced technologies to market. My work in the last 12, 15 years has been on renewable power, microgrids, and energy storage. Today, I work with two different battery companies bringing utility scale battery systems to market. This evening, you heard about the work underway to repower and extend the life of our solar assets. And you also heard about some of the challenges and opportunities with the FIT contracts coming up, starting to expire in 2031, along with the effort from Ontario to expand the next generation of energy infrastructure. I believe that my experience at the intersection of renewable power and grid modernization will help SolarShare navigate that transition, protect our member investments, and look for opportunities to have more community energy projects going forward. I'd ask for
Thank
your
you.
vote again tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And then Mike, you're coming on as the last nominee. Please unmute and show your video if you're able.
Okay. I've been involved in solar since 1986. I worked on SolarShare starting in 2007, co-founded in 2010. It's been quite a ride since then. I left my job to work full-time on SolarShare projects as a volunteer. I've negotiated 48 land lease agreements and engineering agreements to build the projects we have. I've negotiated to purchase three more. I think I've only missed three board meetings in 16 years now. Working with such wonderful people as those you're seeing running for the boards tonight has been a real reward. But I don't want to rest on my laurels. I want us to build bigger, more and bigger projects. I think we can do it. I think we've proven we have the wherewithal. We just need to scale up. And I fully intend to do that. And if everybody isn't too sick of seeing my face, I would like to continue. And I hope I will be allowed to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. Um, Thank you, all the nominees, for telling us about yourself, and thank you to everybody for listening. And I'll ask Arshia if you could launch the Slido poll now. You can maximum only vote for three candidates. You can vote for none, one or two as well. And then the three candidates with the most votes will get the term. So you should have gotten a notification to open the Slido, which is integrated. It's a little bit different from the Zoom poll just because Zoom doesn't let us cap the amount of options that you can vote. So you should see it pop up. And then if anyone has any questions or is experiencing technical difficulties, please let us know. Um, we have 68 people on the call, and roughly about half have submitted responses. A note
Brian,
to all the board.
we're
Yes.
not getting the slide.
Oh, is it not loading?
That we just never saw a notification.
I was able to see it or vote.
Hmm. It's weird that only some people were able to. You should get a notification that'll ask if you allow Slido. Um, I think we can copy the app link potentially and send it in the chat. I don't know, Arshia or Kyle, if you're able to
Yeah,
do this.
let me do that.
And we'll keep this poll open.
There's
Very
also
good. And that's
there's
also,
also a number of Q&A responses from non-panelists that they can't see the poll either.
okay. Then please we ask for your patience as we see if we can copy the link to this poll and put it in the chat and see if that works to bring it up for everybody. But it's odd that it works for some people and not everybody.
The link posted was the link to the app
The app
to
itself.
integrate. Yeah, it's not the poll.
Just 1 second, I figured it out. Just 1 second, sorry. It's Teams chat.
Arshia, if you could let me know if we're able to do a fix. If not,
Yes, I
I might
fixed it
suggest.
right now. I'm just gonna send the new link in the chat to everyone.
Okay, sounds good.
Sorry for the delay. I was just looking in the settings.
No worries. And do you want
A
me to
little long.
close?
Oh, the link is above the 1 second. So I do have the link, but it's above the character limit that Zoom allows. Does this work? This should work. The new link I just sent.
Yeah, it's working for me.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, it's working. It's updating the votes. Sorry for the delay, and thank you for the patience.
Thank you, everybody. And I'll give it some more time to get us up to the 66 members. I see folks with their hands raised. I don't know if these are legacy hands from earlier. It might be folks who still can't see the voting screen. If you still can't see the voting screen, could you send something in the Q&A? Oh, actually, this is a question I have for the team. If somebody has voted already, are they able to use this link to vote again?
It was grayed out for me. Like I voted through the Slido, so I tried the link and I wasn't able to vote again.
Okay, that's helpful. That's good to know. So please don't vote again. Okay, perfect. And I'm seeing a lot of people say that it's worked now. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. I'll ask. So please, if you have already voted, do not vote again. And then I'll ask that if anybody is still unable to vote, please mention in the Q&A. Okay. It looks like everybody has voted, and you should be able to see the results too as you've voted. The top three candidates are Mike, Peter, and Devendra. So congratulations to the three of you for becoming a part of the board, Devendra, and for continuing your terms, Mike and Peter. And then I'll just note, instead of trying to share again, what I'll do is just to say thank you everybody for joining us. I will need a motion to terminate the AGM. Can I get Doug, if you could make that motion, please? Can't see the hand raises, and I'm guessing yes. So Doug is raising his hand, and then Patrick, can I get you to second, please?
Sure, I'll second.
And then Arshia, can you launch the final Zoom poll to terminate the official AGM? Apologies, everybody, for all the ins and outs of due process, and I'll give it a couple more seconds. Okay. We can end the poll and this motion passes. Um, Please share any feedback or any questions or any concerns you have about our AGM. You can email us. I'll ask Arshia Nikal to throw the email into the chat for everybody. It's invest@solarbonds.ca, or you can call our number. I would also like to open up the Q&A period for everybody. So what we can do is please raise your hands, and then we'll go in order. We'll unmute um, the people who raise their hands to ask the question. You can also ask in the Q&A, and we can answer some of them live, but it looks like some of the team has been answering in written format online. And then if anybody needs to leave, you're welcome to. We've gotten through sort of um, we've gone through all the official aspects of the AGM, and thank you to all of the board members again for being here today. Thank you to all of the nominees. You're so amazing, and there's such expertise in the room. And then thank you to everybody, all of our members, all of you who have attended the AGM. We really appreciate your participation, your involvement. And I'm seeing, so there's one open Q&A on disposal of old panels. Are these being recycled in a meaningful way? Yes, we actually did, I believe, we have some information on the website, but there's somebody who has helped us with the recycling of the panels. Everything that can be recycled has been recycled, and we get a bit of money from that as well. So when we dispose of the Waterview project, we did recycle parts. Anybody from the team, feel free to interrupt and jump in too. I'm just kind of reading through some of the questions now. It looks like Patrick and others have been responding. We have some hands up. Can we unmute some of the folks with their hands up to ask questions live? Yeah, it looks like Bill Jones, you have your hand up. You have permission to talk, but we can't hear you. Same with Graham Flint.
I haven't spoken yet.
Hi, Graham. We can hear you if you want to ask your question
Super.
verbally.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for shepherding us through this today. I just want a process observation. I'm a little bit uncomfortable about the Q&A being outside of the AGM entirely. That's not kind of a process that I'm familiar with, so I just feel it's a little odd. But my real discussion tonight is about Tapestry, and I appreciate that Chris took the time to join us tonight. I've been a long-term investor, love SolarShare, love everything it represents. You know, the team has done an amazing job, as some of the comments that were shared earlier. I mean, this started just with a vision and a dream that a few people had, and it's turned into this wonderful organization that's doing this incredible work. So it's fantastic. But I have to say that my experience with Tapestry over the past, let's say, year or so has been a disappointment to say the least. I'd have to say that Tapestry is now a reason for me not to invest with SolarShare rather than a supporting element to it. I don't know what other people have experienced, but I find the transition to a new system, we were warned about this on the way in, that we would lose the sort of visibility we have across jointly held bonds, and this was just going to be part of the new architecture. Okay, I said, all right, well, I mean, that's a disappointment, but it's not the end of the world. But I assumed that I would get a system that was at least equivalent to the one that we had before. And I've been working with Kyle on these issues for, several weeks now. So he's well aware, and I know he's gone back to Tapestry, and he's shared with me some of the back and forth that's going on there. But I just want to make it really clear, it's not acceptable right now, at least in my opinion. Um, Basic indicative information like when a bond was issued or what its maturity date, you can sort of glean that if you kind of look at what do they call it, the amortization schedule, and you sort of figure it out by back calculating, but that should be something that's presented. There's a bunch of identifiers that's used for bonds in the Tapestry system that don't correspond in any way to the bond numbers that are actually issued on the statement, on the certificates that we get. I mean, these weren't issues before, and now they're issues we're facing. And what really concerns me, was during some of the transition. So I grant that, best laid plans can sometimes have hiccups thrown into them. But my wife had a couple bonds that matured. I got a payment about a week and a half late, and she got paid about maybe 3 weeks late. And these are actual redemptions. So it was tens of thousands of dollars that were just, there didn't seem to be any urgency. I mean, it was explained to me that it's something to do with ETF transfer limits and there was a new supplier involved. So, I mean, I understand it all, but it didn't change the effect that we had a really bad experience. And the transactions that are actually shown in the new Tapestry app make it seem like things are happening on random dates that don't reflect at all when the things are actually happening. So it'll say I was paid out on the 4th of a month and I didn't really receive the money till the 23rd. So it upsets me because I go back into the system, sort of figure out what's going on, and what I'm finding is it misrepresents the reality of what happened. So I guess my comment is, does Tapestry understand how bad this is? Chris, you seemed like, a very engaged person and you joined us and, you said, contact us if you have issues. I know these issues have been raised for some time now, and I'm getting the impression I'm not the only one that's concerned about it, but I don't sense a real urgency or an acknowledgement that, that there are these issues and that they're being addressed.
Um, Chris had to run to a prior engagement. He was only here for the presentation, but I will pass on the specific comments, any ones that we haven't already passed on to Tapestry, and I'll coordinate with Kyle to do that. And I will say that maybe a number of things. So some of the things that you talked about, for example, like the beneficiaries and the joint with rights of survivorship. All of these, I would say that some of these decisions were sort of jointly made between Tapestry and SolarShare. So we also take responsibility for, for example, you not being able to do the JWRS the same way. It just didn't work well with the existing platform too. And we found that sort of people wanted to do sort of the beneficiary status could more easily do that on other platforms, and then having to do a process with like joint ownership of bonds, but then also track membership as a cooperative and pieces like that. Just it wasn't really working when we started to evaluate our system and the ways that we wanted to do things. So a lot of it is with Tapestry in the new system, but I want to start by taking responsibility for sort of the decisions that we've been making at SolarShare as well. And then I will note that although the issues are with the platform and on Tapestry's side, like we take an active involvement in designing these processes and in giving feedback to Tapestry. The history of it really is that we were incubated out of the same organizations, out of Toronto Renewable Energy Cooperative. They built this platform for organizations like ours. We have sort of a vested interest to make these things better and to do these things well, and we've been doing that. So after this AGM, we will do sort of a check-in and a breakdown with them. We'll talk about our past offering, all the things that we liked, all the things that we didn't like, and all the things that we want to improve. We have a lot of your comments written through email already, Graham, but you're welcome to send us more, and we'll take an active approach in building up processes with Tapestry and requesting things on their new system to make sure that issues like this don't happen. Because it's unfortunate. We so appreciate that you love solar and that you love the mission and you love what we're doing, and it's sort of the investment platform that is your hesitancy. So again, apologies on behalf of SolarShare. We're working on it, and we talked to Tapestry about these things. I still see a hand from Bill. I think I've asked to unmute, but I don't know if that works.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
thank
welcome
you.
to ask your question,
I
Bill.
sent in a question and it was partly answered during the meeting, because the FIT contracts are coming due relatively soon, starting in 2031. And so I see, and I think I forget who sent me a list from 2031 to 2037. Are a lot of the projects are coming due then. So because there's a real change in how SolarShare operates when there aren't any FIT contracts anymore. So it's useful to get that information out. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And I know Patrick has outlined sort of all these post-fit options, and we're really taking the time to evaluate and see what works for us. And I'm happy your question was answered in the written Q&A. Yeah, and I see that Kyle sent a note that the list of all the projects and when their FIT contracts expire, it's all listed in our offering statement, and you can find that on our website.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Do we have any other open questions? Feel free to put your hand up.
There are a few in the chat too, Brian.
Okay. Do you mind asking some out loud? I'm having a hard time seeing some of the old chats. But maybe we'll start with, it looks like Armin has a hand up. If we could ask Armin to unmute.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Great presentations. Thank you for everything. Just want to echo that I also think the Q&A should be part of the proceedings and the recordings. I don't think it should be separated out. And then maybe think about offering a town hall. I heard some like criticism of Tapestry, and I don't have to use it a lot, so I didn't run into a lot of these issues, but I can see how I also was looking for information like beneficiaries and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe you should do a town hall with people that have written in comments and have some ideas and some maybe misgivings about the whole thing, and figure out like how you and Tapestry could best move forward in addressing this quickly, so that people that have invested, as it sounds, maybe a chunkable size of money, don't walk away and take that money elsewhere. That's everything. Thanks.
Thank you, Armin. Heard on the second comment now about the Q&A not being officially part of the AGM. It will be part of the recording. It's like the meeting is still recording. We have posted our Q&As as a part of the AGM recordings each year. My worry generally has been that the Q&A period, if it goes long, people will drop out of the meeting and we don't have quorum to terminate the meeting. But I'll take that into consideration. We'll review and see if we can terminate the meeting in a different way, potentially. But to keep the Q&A as a part of the AGM, to leave it in the recording as it always has been, heard on all of those pieces. And then the town hall, I think that's a great idea. Like we'll talk through it, but we're always looking for ways to engage our members, and town halls are always also great ideas and ways for like members of the cooperative to share sort of your ideas and what you think. And it doesn't just have to be about Tapestry. It could be more general town halls and ways for people to meet each other and voice their concerns. Armin, maybe if you want to unmute and respond to that first. I see your hand went back up, and then Mike, you
I
also
went back up. No, that's all great. Thank you. That's I think a good way to address this all. I had one thing around the financial auditor. Just wondering, have you been using always the same one? Is there a merit in at some point switching? I'm not saying this has to be this year, next year. I don't know what the up and downs are. I understand if you're working with somebody you like, that's good, but maybe also at some point, for transparency, it's good to give it to somebody else, just so it's not always the same people looking at the same things.
Yeah, that's a great point. We'll take that into consideration. Ron, you're also welcome to comment, and Mike as well.
We did. Thanks, Armin. We have used them since inception. They do actually a number of other cooperatives too, so they're well versed in the cooperative space. But 2 years ago, we did kind of tender. And we went out to a number of other firms, and Crown LaRose came back and they were actually the cheapest. So we decided to renew with them again. But we do think about that every couple of years.
Thank you, Ron and Mike. Uh,
I see that. Oops, sorry. Better stop that. Someone had asked in the questions, what does SolarShare have in the works for future contracts now that government contracts are ending? I got a note today from a major developer that there are indications that more contract rounds are coming out. But to answer the core of the question, previously, the ability to sell electricity to someone from your solar system directly was not permitted unless you became a licensed generator, which is a big deal. I mean, Pickering Nuclear Station is a licensed generator sort of thing. It's unreal for someone, a much smaller organization. The legislation has partly changed, is due to have a couple of other changes that are pretty significant to us. So yes, that is going to open up other possibilities for us. And who knows what the future holds? But let's say the weather looks clearer up ahead than it did in past.
Thank you, Mike. Um, Kyle, I might ask you to come off mute and if you could summarize any of the questions in chat and maybe any of the answers that you know, and then we can also build on that if we need.
Perfect. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. Okay, so we have one. This is a very specific question. And this is, do solar bond projects show as grid solar in things like electricity maps or grid watch, or are they in the distribution grid and not reported on that level? So I don't know the answer to that one.
It looks like Patrick has responded directly in the answered portion of the Q&A. Everything's distribution connected. Don't believe that they would show up.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, but on our website, you can also track more information, I think, with like Cashland on project-specific data.
Okay, another
Anything else?
one that I think we've answered already, but in case there are any follow-ups, question about when the FIT contracts expire. We got that in the chat and answered here, but everyone can look on the offering statements to see that. Or if you want to, we might do something on social media or in the member newsletter, just showing a list of that as a follow-up. If for any reason you want that faster, feel free to email invest@, and I can send you a list. Then there's a question about the power of attorney situation, the change from, there's a few of these, the changeover from joint rights of survivorship and the sort of ending of that.
And what is the question specifically?
It's very well. One very specifically is, what do I tell my power of attorney or executor about? Sorry, let me just get the exact wording here. What do I tell my power of attorney about what they have to do if I become incapacitated or die? Who would they contact? What happens to my investment? I don't believe there are any beneficiary forms attached to the investments anymore, whereas my investments elsewhere do have those.
I would just give them our contact information. Typically, people will reach out, will ask for the specific documents that are needed, and proceed accordingly. I think maybe we can also talk to Tapestry about like coming up with a very clear way of doing this. If you like with a setup process, if that makes it easier for you to be able to like send your power of attorney with all the things that you might want to prepare ahead of time. But typically the process has been people will just reach out to us directly and we'll just ask them for the things that we need.
Yeah. Grace Ann, one of our board members, also has a comment in here saying that usually only registered investments like RSPs have a beneficiary or successor option. And much like a bank GIC, they just contact us.
And it's good practice that you have a list of all your accounts and everything, and solar bonds would include that, so that whomever, power of attorney or the executor, when you were no longer with us, have a complete list that they can then look and get contact to get the information to understand what needs to be done. Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you, Bill.
A chat question about the average size of investment at SolarShare. Just a kind of fun trivia fact was I don't have full historical data, but in 2026 it was 28,000 was the average sized investment. That can be misleading sometimes because of very large investments, but the median size was 10,000. And that's it.
Okay, I'll maybe wait a couple more seconds. If anybody wants to throw anything in the Q&A, chat, raise their hand. Okay. Well, thank you all so much again for joining and for being here until the end of the call. We'll share the slides and the information and everything on that AGM website. And congratulations again to the folks who have been voted onto the board. And thank you again to all of the nominees. I really appreciate all the work you put into it. And yes, I see Grace Ann's comment too. Thank you all for a great meeting. Bye, everybody. Hopefully see you next week if you're coming to the member social.
Thank you, Brian.